Once that perfect cup of Starbucks coffee arrives, you might not give much thought about what it took to get there, but rest assured they have before you receive that rich, smooth, roasty, and balanced coffee. It was made personally for you by the baristas, the ones who greeted you warmly and remembered your name, and that you like the double tall non-fat cappuccino. Now, before they could make your favorite beverage, their signature espresso roast traveled the ocean from one of their artists and roasters. The way they roast beans is uniquely Starbucks because they roast until the second pot, which maximizes the flavor of each and every bean. Long before their roasters can roast those Arabica beans, their buyers have to source them. They travel across three growing regions to carefully pick the best Arabica beans in the world. And since they're so close, let's go back to the people who started it all, the coffee growers. They work closely with farmers like Alfredo here who share their passion about creating the finest coffee in the world, which means the personal carrier coffee receives in that first 10 feet of its journey is the same as in those last 10 feet. And that's the end of, well, the beginning of how Starbucks created rich, smooth, roasty, balanced, personal, and international coffee perfection. So the year is 1970. Three college friends, Zev Siegel, Jerry Baldwin, and Gordon Bowker, decide to get into coffee business. They found a mentor in Alfred Peet, founder of Peet's Coffee and the man responsible for bringing custom coffee roasting to the US.
The coffee industry inside and out, especially the gourmet end. He was the most educated coffee guy in the country at that time.
So with Pete's help, the three friends opened Starbucks, a coffee bean shop and roastery at Seattle's famous Pike Place Market in 1971. Pete provided the young entrepreneurs with roasted coffee beans and connected them with coffee brokers until they could set up their own roastery and source their own beans. For the first decade, the founders opened 5 more locations in Seattle. At this point, contemporary coffee consumers might have noticed a glaring absence: actual coffee drinks. But that's the thing about the 70s coffee culture, it didn't really exist outside the home.
Coffee bars, nor was there much of a demand for espresso-based drinks. You purchased coffee beans and you either took them home as beans or we ground them for you in the store. Nobody expected to get a beverage at a Starbucks coffee store until after 1980.
Starbucks' initial focus was bringing high-quality beans to consumers who were more accustomed to instant or canned coffee, but that changed with the addition of one man.
Its first really professional director of marketing and sales. And that man was Howard Schultz. And he couldn't figure out why we weren't selling beverages.
In 1983, Scott travels to Italy and returns with an idea: turn the coffee bean stores into cafes. Starbucks served its first latte the next year. The experiment was a success, and 4 years later, Scott partnered with investors and bought Starbucks for $3.8 million. He was only 34 at the time. Scott pursued a strategy of aggressive expansion. By the time the company went in public in 1992, it had 165 stores. By 1996, it had opened more than 1,000 locations, including its first international cafes in Japan and Singapore. Growth was so rapid that just 3 years later, Starbucks opened its 2,000th location.
Once they found a business model that worked, that translated to other geographies, that gave them the opportunity to really accelerate growth, really put the pedal to the metal in terms of expanding across the globe.
Scott switched from CEO to executive chairman in 2000, at which time Starbucks operated 3,500 stores in more than a dozen countries. Between 2000 and 2007, the number of Starbucks cafes more than quadrupled from 35 to 15,000. During this period, the company opened an average of 1,500 stores every year, including 2,500 in 2007. Sales shot up from 2 billion to 9.4 billion. Consumers were increasingly ditching their kitchen mugs for these iconic paper-to-go cups, but then Starbucks hit a wall: the 2007 financial crash. That year, its rapid growth screeched to a halt and its stock price plummeted by 50% as cash-strapped consumers backed away from pricey coffee habits. Scott's goal was to remind customers what they loved about the brand by making stores an experience, not just a place to get a quick coffee. Scott's even mandated the removal of automatic espresso machines. This made services faster but removed much of the romance and theater of watching baristas craft. However, this brings us back to the first problem: profit cannibalization. Oversaturation, particularly in urban locations, has spread less sales thin because Starbucks has so many locations. Customers don't have to be loyal to just one. So even if Starbucks overall sales are growing, its individual steam stores sales won't reflect it, compounding this problem and changing customer preferences. People are shying from sugar-laden color bombs, which happen to be one of Starbucks staples. Perhaps the company's biggest undertaking is its new line of upscale stores, Starbucks Reserve Roasteries. These massive 20,000 square foot stores are designed to be a tourist destination. Here, Starbucks baristas and bartenders experiment with different brewing methods and craft new, innovative beverages. They are proven popular in first weeks in Shanghai Roastery made an average of $64,000 every day, which is double what a regular cafe makes in a week. So, to sum it all, the company chosen by the group is Starbucks, which is an American company, by the way. So, it has been officially founded in the year 1971 by the three people I mentioned earlier in the video. So, they all had two things in common. So they were all coming from academia and they love coffee and tea. That's why, as you can see at the logo, Starbucks coffee and tea. And they invested and borrowed some money, specifically from Alfred Pete, for them to open their first store in Seattle. As you can see with the map, it's showing the top 15 countries by number of licensed Starbucks stores. So, consequently, since it is an American based company, majority of these licensed Starbucks stores are coming from the northern part or the North America and the western countries as well. So on a more dense scale, as we can see on the green portions of the western part of the maps. So here is where most of the licensed Starbucks stores are located. Although there are also some of the mid dense licensed stores in the West and Asian parts of the world. So actually, in fact, we already are at 31,724 licensed Starbucks stores. 406 of those come from the Philippines, which is, by the way, the top 10. So in the Philippines, however, when did we had our first taste of Starbucks? Or when did we first experience it? So it was in year 1997 at the 4th day of December, on the 4th day of December. So it was built in a branch of 6750 Ayala building in Makati. So it's the very first branch, and Starbucks has since won the hearts of the Filipinos. So one of the case studies I read, people like or Asian people like to spend longer hours or time on coffee shops rather than the Western people. That's why the Asians thought one time a customer asked, where could I smoke in here? So as the very first branch, it would be surprising, of course. So immediately after that suggestion, it was amended, and outdoor seatings has been added for people to be able to freely smoke or study and so on. That's why the outdoor thing has become popular, especially here in the Philippines. As we can see, almost every Starbucks have their own outdoor patio or porch. So as we can see here, the distribution of branches of Starbucks in the Philippines are majority located in Luzon and lesser in Visayas and least in Mindanao. So as Scouts becoming one of the former longtime Starbucks CEO and chairman of it, um, it really enhanced, or it really skyrocketed, especially at the onset of Starbucks in the 70s in America. Approximately, in an estimate, it has been 57% of the total revenue or the sales of Starbucks. 57%, imagine 57% over 100. That makes it almost a two-thirds of the scale. So that's a really big um, ratio or sales of income. So to officially answer the questions which has been, or the guide questions which has been prepared. So first of all, since this is a Western company, um, it became latter to transcend in the eastern parts of, or the Asian parts. That's why it came here at 1997 on the latter. It wasn't as early as became a boom on the Asian countries, but it seems to be a fit also to the taste of the world itself, because there have been a lot of branches of Starbucks already, not only in the West but also on the all over the world. So, in these terms, it influenced global economic activity at the very least level, which is a leisure and a form of consuming. So, for the second question is, how does it affect the economics in the Philippines? It's a global company already, which has been established in the America. So, I believe its effect is both at the pros and cons. Initially, since we're considering a globally competitive company, which is Starbucks as well, or the franchising becomes more of a salary based, since a lot of franchises are coming in the Philippines. Of course, it will become at an advantage for the original company itself, which is based in US. However, it also is a big impact in the Filipinos, um, since a lot have been usually hooked up with really going to Starbucks lately. Even I sometimes want to go to Starbucks for the sake of the experience and feeling primarily. Don't get me wrong, but the products are satisfactory as well. But as said in the video and as said as by Howard Schultz, it's the experience you're really looking for. The way your drink is gonna be manually served or manually manufactured in front of you, as you can see by the baristas. That's the feeling we look for in this type of company, which was uniquely prepared for us. In terms of economics, it does give a lot of job opportunities as well for Filipinos aspiring to be um, baristas. But the major impact of it is that, at a negative side, okay, I think that because of the branding and the bandwagon, a lot of people have been going to Starbucks more. But the local company or coffee shops built by local companies, they really not not totally left out, but I could say that Starbucks is really dominating this platform of stage when it comes to coffee shop. So finally, I could say that this skyrocketing company is really has been a trend all over the world, especially here in the Philippines. We could say that its effect is both at the pros and cons for us. Although I think the advantages is more in a way that, of course, since you're gonna be purchasing or going into a franchise, partly, of course, or the bigger latter percent of the sale, it's still going to the one who purchased the franchise as well, isn't it? So, for me or for the rest of the group as well, I think it has been really a great company or a good example of a multinational company that hasn't just reach a single particular area, instead all over the world.